Oh, so we got a lot to get done today. You want to get started? Okay, and go!
You look, I'm standing in the spotlight.
It's our problem-free philosophy. Hakuna Matata. Can your friends pull this out their little hat? Can your friends go?
Take that as a yes.
Abstopp! Bei uns kann wieder älteren Suchen ein von der London.
Beyond the shore, where the gulls fly free, don't know what for. But I dreamed the day might send just around the river bend.
Huzzah! Hail the conquering hero!
Psst, your line is, I'm going to free the genie. Anytime.
I can't.
Sure you can. You just go.
Genie, I wish you free.
I'm serious.
Uh-huh. Crazy!
Gesundheit.
No. Fruitcake!
Are you okay?
No! That bear over there! He's crazy!
Oh, you must help her to see past all that.
I don't know how.
Well, you can start by making yourself more presentable. Straighten up. Try to act like a gentleman.
Ah, yes. When she comes in, give her a dashing, debonair smile.
But don't frighten the poor girl.
Shower her with compliments.
But be sincere.
And above all, you must control your temper.
Good evening.
Well, where is she? What?
Your Grace! Your Eminence! What? We should start running. Like now!
Boy, what are you doing here, Bernard? Welcome here! You staring at? So, you've come to stare at the beast, have you?
Sorry, kid.
Oh, yeah? Well, I think Ping and I can take you.
I really don't want to take him anywhere.
Ping, we have to fight.
No, we don't. We could just close our eyes and swim around.
Come on, don't be such a... Ouch! Something bit me.
What a nasty flavor.
Snake!
Let's beat it. This way.
No, this way.
Oh, thank you very much.
Okay, just stay still, eh?
Head down, head down.
Oh, gee, I think he's seen us, eh? Now what?
Act like we're not here.
We're not here.
Shh, what are you doing, eh?
Well, you said to tell
Don't
us.
say anything. Shh.
Okay.
I said don't say anything.
Excuse me.
Ah!
You wouldn't like us, eh? We're really gamey.
Yeah, eat hooper brains over there.
Oh, nice, eh? Pine cone breath,
Crusty tail,
twig legs.
big nose. Sorry.
You went too far that time.
Well, I feel sheepish.
All right, you bad boy. Let's make some magic. So how about it? What is it you want most?
A girl worth fighting for.
Huh?
That's what I said. A girl worth fighting for. I want her paler than the moon, with eyes that shine like stars.
I couldn't care less what she'll wear or what she looks like. It all depends on what she cooks like. Beef, pork, chicken.
And I'll bet the ladies love a man in armor.
What about the time your hooves froze in the pond? Who sat with you all winter, eh? You did. And who showed you where the good grazing is? I mean, the really tender stuff, all covered in dew. Now, why do you think I did that, eh? Because I love dew. Excuse me? I don't believe I heard what you said. I said I love dew. I love do too, Hey, I can change.
Go away.
Come on, I can change.
Go away. Don't touch me.
I can change.
Hey, not there. That's the spot.
Like we'll see you later, smallish bear.
Yeah, good day, Hey, you know what this calls for? A pile of delicious barley and amberweed on a cool bed of malted hops,
I like it.
Thank you very much. It's like watching your life flash before your eyes, except everybody has funny voices and gigantic eyes. Wow, 17 years of my life. Again, my name is Broose Johnson, and I'm very honored to be here this evening, given the opportunity by ZoeCare to speak. And I've been blessed to have attended this banquet with my wife, Penny, the last several years. And I've been quite impressed with the quality of the speakers that I've heard here before. In fact, I remember sitting there being impressed, thinking, wow, they are really good at this. I could never do that. The Bible says that God knows our hearts. The upside of that is that God knows the real us and promises to love us and forgive us anyway. The downside is you don't even have to say dumb stuff like, I could never do that out loud for him to hear it. He was probably up there chuckling, oh, Bruce, you're just going to love the irony here, but just not right away. So here I am, and actually I do love the irony, and I'm happy to be here. I've helped lead music at our church and sung in front of a lot of people over the years. And one of the cardinal sins, one of the things you are never supposed to do as a performer, is to give any excuses or disclaimers before your performance. Well, I'm going to break that rule right now and tell you that I'm not a professional speaker. I'm a regular person just like you. I have no doubt that there are any number of former Disney animators with no legs and 10 kids that Gene could get to come up here and do this for you. But on the upside, I am a storyteller at heart. In fact, it's what I do for a living. And that's what Gene and the folks at ZoeCare want me to do, is tell my story. So I'm just going to get started and see where this leads. So once in the mid-90s, during a Disney animators meeting, for fun, one of my colleagues tossed out a question to all of us. What was our biggest inspiration for wanting to become a Disney animator? Of course, most of us had been inspired by classic Disney films like The Jungle Book, or Cinderella, or Peter Pan, but I was surprised to hear that nearly everyone had Star Wars on their list, me included. I was in middle school in 1977 when Star Wars came out, and it blew me away. I decided right then and there that I wanted to turn my love for drawing into special effects for movies. But it was actually a visit to Hanna-Barbera Studios, the creators of the Flintstones, the Jetsons, and Yogi Bear, and Scooby-Doo, that actually turned my eyes towards animation. Something about that introduction into the world of animation just caught my imagination, and I was hooked. That's what I wanted to do, I decided. I was told by several kids at school that there was no chance of me ever becoming a Disney animator, however, because there are only like 30 Disney animators in the world, so it would be impossible to become one of such a small group. And B, as far as they were concerned, I didn't draw that well. Clearly, I needed some new friends. Well, around that time, the very first space shuttle, the Columbia, was getting ready to launch. And of course, it was a big deal. And it occurred to me that years ago, some little kid dreamed of being an astronaut someday. And now, after years and years, their dream was going to come true. Soon, someone was going to be driving the space shuttle. In a few years, someone will be animating at Disney. Why can't it be me? So with that determination, I attended California Institute of the Arts, which was the only school in the nation with a character animation program at the time. And just to brag a bit, a few of my buddies at CalArts were Rich Moore, who recently directed Zootopia, if you've seen that, and Andrew Stanton, who wrote and directed WALL-E and Finding Nemo, and recently Finding Dory. I know, I'm a name dropper. However, as inspired as I was for animation, the animation industry during the 1980s was experiencing a bit of a slump, and Disney Studios hadn't had a significant hit since The Jungle Book, which had come out nearly 20 years earlier. Disney animation was in desperate need of a jolt of new enthusiasm, or it was going to be lost forever. Enter Broose Johnson. Okay, I didn't provide the jolt of enthusiasm, if that's what you're wondering. But I was around at the time when the jolt started happening. I was hired right out of school and began working on Oliver and Company as an assistant animator. Though Oliver was an entertaining enough picture, we all felt that if anything was going to put Disney animation and perhaps animation in general back on its feet, it was going to be The Little Mermaid. We were all very excited about that picture, and I was thrilled to be cast on the characters of both Sebastian the Crab and King Triton as an assistant animator. And these are some of my drawings. Well, it may surprise you to learn that The Little Mermaid turned out to be a success after all. So much so, it ushered in an era that has come to be known as Disney animation's second golden age. Some big movies followed for us, like Beauty and the Beast, and Aladdin, and The Lion King, Pocahontas, Mulan, and even Brother Bear, which was my final film there. And I was blessed to be right in the middle of it all by often being cast on lead characters. Now, before you become too impressed, as a reality check, here's a very serious photo of me taken during the making of Beauty and the Beast. I have no idea what's going on there, actually. I'm just a goofball, I guess. Okay, so I will answer one question I get asked more than any other. When working on the genie in Aladdin, did I get to meet Robin Williams? The answer is yes. Yes, I did. As our crew picture here will attest. He's there in the middle with blonde hair. He was working on a movie called Toys, if any of you saw that, and everybody on that movie had blonde hair at the time. And yes, I am a name dropper. So not long after Brother Bear was completed, the decision was made to discontinue hand-drawing all animation and move to computer-based animation instead. And our satellite studio that was part of the Disney MGM studio tour in Walt Disney World was closed down. And I think our space is being turned into Star Wars land as we speak. So all in all, I spent nearly 17 years in the career of my dreams, which is not bad for a kid who grew up on an avocado grove in the middle of nowhere. So I got to fly the space shuttle after all. Of course, I mean that metaphorically. My dad, on the other hand, almost means that literally. He was a fighter pilot in the Navy flying F-8 Crusaders in Vietnam. Handsome guy. He was even invited to fly with the Blue Angels naval acrobatic team. How cool would that have been? He turned it down, unfortunately, and I kind of blame myself because by that time I had the nerve to have been born. And when you fly for the Blue Angels, you're just plain gone for a year. And he didn't want to do that to my mom and I. So he became a pilot for, there's my mom and I. Did you see that picture? Look at me. I think I had more hair then. So he became a pilot for American Airlines instead. Even after multiple tests over extended amounts of time, it was never discovered what had happened to me and why I developed the way that I did. Thalidomide is typically the first suspect that comes to mind. Thalidomide was a nausea medicine in the 50s and early 60s that unfortunately had the potential side effect of causing terrible deformities in babies at the time. However, my parents tell me that they were well aware of the dangers of thalidomide and never used it or anything like it. Well, whatever the cause, I was born without any usable bones below my knees. My dad described the bones in the x-rays as kind of fading in on one end and fading out on the other without connecting to any other bones. This was true with the bones in my feet as well, undeveloped and not touching. My dad says you could turn my feet all the way around and I wouldn't care. Now, why he would know that, I don't know. Honey, look what I can do. Brucey loves it. I don't know. Sounds like a weird thing to me. But when I was about 12 to 14 months old, at the age when most kids are walking, my legs were amputated just above the knees. Then the UCLA medical team had me in a pair of artificial legs the next morning. So that picture is. You can see they're like shorter. I guess I have less distance to fall. I guess I'm on stilts, you know what I mean? I don't know. That sounds a bit early to me, but kids adapt to new conditions remarkably fast, and they felt like the sooner the better for me. I guess I can't complain. I mean, look how happy I am in that picture. Oh. Okay, here's a funny story. Many years ago, my wife Penny was tucking our daughter Bethany into bed, and they somehow ended up on the topic of what heaven was going to be like. And Penny was talking about how awesome it was going to be, and Bethany asked her if Daddy was going to have legs in heaven. Oh, yeah, Daddy will have legs, and he'll be able to run and jump and dance. And Bethany started to cry, and she said, what's wrong, sweetheart? And she said, I don't want Daddy to have legs. I like him short down with me because we can wrestle and play and stuff. But he's like, well, maybe God will let him do both, and he could switch back and forth like a transformer or something. So I'm kind of looking forward to see how that turns out. That'll be kind of cool. However, that is not all. I also had severe scoliosis of the spine. My back is so bent, it's almost like Superman S. And as far as I can tell, it's completely fused and doesn't bend in any direction. Because of this, I lose about 5 inches in height, and I use a booster seat wherever I go. As many of you know, if you measure your arms from fingertip to fingertip, that distance is nearly exactly your height. And that's one of the things that Leonardo da Vinci is illustrating in this famous sketch. Okay? So you should try it. It's cool. Sometime lay on the floor and put something on either end, and then lay down long ways, and it's almost the same. And that's how that I can tell that I'm supposed to be about 6'2", but I lose that height because of my scoliosis. So to show you how off my proportions are, on my left side, this is my hip, right there. Okay? My hip is way up there. On this side, on my right side, I can't even touch my hip because it's up underneath my rib cage somewhere. I've never seen it, but I've heard it's there, and I tell people that I'm just not hip. Here's a picture of me. I think you can kind of see how short my back is in this one a little bit, and I'm watching my favorite show, and that's cool. Unfortunately, a fellow artist friend of mine found this photo and thought it looked more like this. Just watching Batman with my Oompa Loompa homies there, I guess. Clearly, I still need new friends. So with my legs off, I'm 3'9". With my legs on, I'm 5'9". That's the addition of 2 feet. You get that? Thank you. My kids have informed me that is literally the worst joke in the world. And I told it to you anyway. But I figured, who else is going to tell it, right? So there was other stuff too. Heart murmurs, liver stuff, hernia operations, I guess from all the heavy lifting my parents were having me do. And for a while, they thought that I might not ever even be able to sit down. I don't even know what that's about. That sounds awful. The list of issues was dramatic and seemingly never-ending for about a year or so. Thankfully, most of these internal issues went best-case scenario over time, and we were able to settle down to life. Okay, so when Jean called me about speaking tonight, she and I discussed talking about my accomplishments at Disney Studios, which is fine with me. That's fun stuff. She also thought I should talk about my legs and physical stuff, and that's also fine. But what in the world does my story of drawing cartoon characters and needing a cane have to do with a local pregnancy center? Come on, you guys are all thinking the same thing. And then it hit me. The mistake is in thinking that it's my story. It's not my story. My prayer is that it's God's story as he expresses it through me. And I suddenly realized that my days at Disney and my physical issues had everything to do with a local pregnancy center. Not only am I relevant to the story, in a way, I am the story. Let me explain. I don't actually know if my parents had an ultrasound, or even if they had access to an ultrasound in the early 60s. All I do know is that my physical condition was a total surprise to my folks when I was born. But the point isn't how much they did or didn't know about my little body. The point is, my various issues were not subtle. They would have been obvious on an ultrasound. Unformed leg bones that didn't connect to anything, and scoliosis of the spine so severe, part of it was at nearly a right angle, and half of the pelvis was up under my rib cage. Yeah, these issues wouldn't have been just obvious. They would have screamed out and brought panic and tears to a first-time parent. I was the poster boy for abortion. And in today's current climate, few would have questioned the choice to abort me. I mean, what kind of quality of life would they be condemning this poor little baby to? I'm sure there would have been doctors that would have advised them to abort me and put me out of my misery. It would have been unfair, they would advise, perhaps even unethical, to bring a child into this world knowing what a nightmare it would probably turn out to be for him. And yet they didn't do that. Here I am. And I would like to say that God has richly blessed me with an incredible quality of life, an incredible story. In fact, it's a quality of life that I think I can safely say has found its way into nearly every one of your houses in the form of my work at Disney and impacted your lives in some way. And not many can say that, and I take that as a great honor and a responsibility. Now, I want to say that I am not typically one to blow my own horn, at least I try to be. And I'm not considered an overly dramatic person, usually just the opposite. But the revelation that I just spoke about, that my story could easily have ended before it had even started, shocked me. Especially considering how God has continued to write this story and keeps spreading, and it keeps spreading like ripples in a pond. Okay, so let's jump ahead a bunch of years later. This is my family. So there is Erica. Wait, this is the wrong picture. Hold on. Nope, one before that one. There you go. I didn't recognize them being normal. So there we go. So this was taken a few years ago, and my kids will remind me that they don't look like this anymore, but it still works. It still works. So first, we have Erica on the far left side there. Erica and Sydney and Anthony, back when he was rocking his crazy hair. Look at that, yeah. And Bethany and Luke and Ben and Taylor, who now has kind of purple and blue hair, so there you go, that's better. And Jaden, and our oldest, Wyatt, and Shelby. So that's them. My wife, Penny, and I have 10 kids. 5 we made ourselves with things we found around the house, and 5 were outsourced. Actually, we came to Bozeman from Orlando, Florida, where we homeschooled our original 5 kids under an umbrella school called Circle Christian School. Circle had a one-day-a-week co-op type class called Foundations, and Penny taught kindergarten and first grade there. And that's where we'd met the Howard family, Anthony Sr., Shelley, and their 5 kids. It's funny looking back. For several years in a row, Penny would have one of her own kids in her class, and often one of the Howards as well. She'd come home from teaching and tell me about all that our child had done, and then usually follow that with a story about one of the Howard kids. Not any of the other kids of the class, one of our kids and a Howard kid. So it's clear that God had already started putting them on our hearts. On the drive home after the first day of school for a new year, Penny asked Bethany, "So what do you think of the other kids in your class?" "They're pretty great," Bethany answered, "except for that Anthony. He kind of drives me crazy." "I'm sorry to hear that," Penny said. "It's okay. It's only one day a week. And I mean, it's not like he's my brother or anything." True story. I told you, God's got a sense of humor. I really didn't get to know the Howards personally until Shelley was diagnosed with breast cancer. We would sometimes watch the kids overnight or for a day or two when Shelley had a procedure or she and Anthony Sr. just wanted to get some time away. I think I expected the kids to be bitter and sad, but instead I discovered kids with an openness and a great capacity to love. Shelley went into remission, and they decided to move back to the Sacramento area in California to be closer to family. Unfortunately, the cancer came back with a vengeance, and Shelley lost the battle in October of 2009. As their father tried to stabilize his world without Shelley, the kids spent a lot of their time with their grandparents, Anthony's folks, Teresa and Jody. A year and a half later, in February of 2011, Anthony Sr. took his own life. The kids were with Jima and Papa at this point, and obviously their world was rocked. We had just moved to Bozeman into a house in the mountains where we had to split the garage in half to make room for the boys to live in. We were still in contact with our friends back in Orlando at Circle Christian School, however. The whole school had rallied around Shelley and the family during her fight with cancer, so the outpouring of concern and emotion was incredible. The emails started flying, and everyone was asking what was going to happen to the Howard kids. Were they going to be split up? Would they have to go to a home? Would they stay with their grandparents? Now, just to back up a little bit, when we were first married, living in a condo north of Los Angeles, Penny and I used to get Log Home Living magazine. It was a dream of ours one day to live in a log home, preferably in the mountains, preferably in Montana. We thought briefly that we could have a log home in Florida, but it turns out they are a bit deficient in the mountains department. I mean, Space Mountain in Disney World is the 4th largest mountain in the entire state, and you're not allowed to live there. I tried. So after Disney, when I got a job that had me working from home over the internet, we realized that perhaps the time had come. So in December of 2010, we drove our 5 kids, 4 dogs, and a bird all the way to Bozeman and into a log home. A dream come true. Okay, technically it's not a log home, it's a regular house with cedar siding and long accents, but it's close enough for us. So I was blown away by the astounding beauty of God's creation surrounding our new house. And I was overwhelmed by the reality of our new life. Look at where we get to live, I exclaimed to Penny. Who gets to do this? She says, do what? I said, live two of their dreams. It had always been my dream to work for Disney, and I did. And we'd always dreamed of living in a log home in Montana, and we're doing that too. People consider themselves blessed if they ever get to live one dream, let alone two. And Penny nodded her head in agreement. So what do you think about that? She said. I don't know, but God's up to something, I answered. For several weeks, we watched the developments of the Howard kids situation over email. Everyone agreed that if at all possible, the kids should stay together. They'd already lost their mother and father. They shouldn't lose each other as well. Meanwhile, we were praying hard from a distance. So one morning, I'm getting up and making my bed, and my thoughts wandered to, okay, so have you ever just sat and wondered what it'd be like to fly like Superman? Right? Actually, like, put your arms in the air and launch into the sky? Right? No? Am I the only one who's ever done that? Okay, well, I'll just tell you, I'm a cartoonist, right? We actually get paid to stare off into space and think dumb stuff. So in a way, I was working. At any rate, I was just letting my mind wander, thinking about how we actually had to create a new room just to give a place for our boys to sleep. And the thought crossed my mind, so hypothetically, if we were to like adopt the Howard kids, where would we put them? And suddenly it hit me like a ton of bricks. That's it. That's what God's up to. It's got his fingerprints all over it. Now, I've never been one of those people who've heard God's voice audibly speak to them, though that would be awesome, of course. But I have had moments where I clearly believed I've felt him tugging on my heart to move one way or another. Well, I felt the tug that morning, and in a way, I didn't even feel like I had a choice. We did, of course, have a choice, but also we didn't. It was simply what we were supposed to do, and it was just up to us to obey. I don't know that I thought we were actually going to end up with the kids necessarily, but I felt that we were supposed to enter this story directly and throw our hats into the ring as a family who was willing to take all five. Well, it turned out that list was a pretty short one. So, of course, we'd known Anthony Sr. and Shelley, the kids' parents, but we didn't know the grandparents, Teresa and Jody, at all. Convincing them to share their grandchildren with us, to be whisked away to the wilds of Montana, is an incredible story as well, where God's grace and intentions were in evidence. I've never been much for Christian slang, but if I was, the phrase "a God thing" would be pretty appropriate. There was a lot of tugging of hearts going on all sides, and in many ways, Jim and Papa were stepping out in faith far more than we were. So with Jim and Papa's blessing, as well as that of the court systems of the great states of California and Montana, Taylor, Anthony, Sydney, Jaden, and Shelby came to live with us in 2011 and were adopted as Johnsons in November of 2012 on a day that we call Gotcha Day. So here we are outside Johnny Carino's celebrating by eating Italian food. The new Johnsons have roots in Italy, and besides, Italian food is a great way to celebrate just about anything. The huge family has experienced many, many blessings, but there have been many, many challenges as well. Adoptions aren't easy, and there's been a lot of past trauma to wade through. And more than once, I've looked up to heaven and said, "You'd better come through, because this was your idea." And he has, time and again. Now, I got to say, Father's Day has taken on new richness and meaning, though. A couple of Father's Days ago, Jaden and Erica were in the car with me. "Happy Father's Day, Dad," Jaden said. "Yep, you are my favorite dad in the whole world." Well, actually, second favorite dad, because my first dad is actually, really, and I said, "Jaden, it's cool. I totally get it. Don't worry, I do not mind being your second favorite dad at all, right? That is totally cool." Erica, one of the original kids, says, "You're my second favorite dad, too." I said, "No, you don't get a choice. You're stuck with me." So not only did my argument fail to convince her, I think I may have actually dropped a third favorite dad. But I'm still on the list, so I guess I'll take what I can get. I recently discovered that my family is partly due to two choices of life. not just the one that my parents made. Only recently did my dad remind me that his mom had to get married because she was pregnant with him. Actually, it wasn't really a secret. I just don't think I understood that before. But if abortion had been an option Grandma chose back when back then my dad wouldn't exist. And of course, neither would I. Do you see the ripple here? Look at the lives that have flourished from my grandma's choice to choose my dad and my mom and dad's choice to choose me. And that is what ZoeCare is all about. Every day, with every person that comes through their door, man or woman. Not just choosing life for an unborn child, though of course that is a primary focus, but finding life and truth for people and families as well. And though I've wondered how my family's story connects to the one that's being written every day at ZoeCare, in one important way, I wonder no more. What ZoeCare does is no longer just theory in our house. It's become very real, and we now have a reason to be grateful for how ZoeCare cares for the people of Bozeman. I would now like to invite my eldest daughter, Taylor, to join me briefly and say a few words. As perhaps many of you already know, Taylor and her boyfriend Curtis are expecting a child next March, and both of them have personally experienced the depth of Zoe's care over the last few months. And I thought it would be great to hear her perspective firsthand. Here you go, dear.
Good evening. As my dad said, I'm Taylor, and I was asked to say a few words about my experience with Zoe. For the last couple years, I've known about Zoe because our church supports it, but it wasn't until this summer that I had any personal experience. In July, I found out that I was pregnant, and I was really scared, and like a lot of other teen moms, had no idea what I was doing or what to do, where to go. And although I had taken many at-home tests that came up positive, I wanted to go somewhere and have someone else tell me, you're pregnant. I didn't know where to go. Do I go to the doctors? Do I make an appointment at the hospital? Do I go to the ER? Like, those all just sounded really intimidating, and I just needed some answers. I called my boyfriend, who's living in Butte right now, going to school there, and he drove down to Bozeman to be with me. And then I called Zoe, because there was a little thing in the back of my mind that said, Zoe's a place you can go. Go call Zoe. And when I called, I literally said something along the lines of, hi, I'm Taylor, and I'm pregnant. And I guess they had gotten calls like that before, because without any hesitation, a woman on the phone said, okay, we'll see you later today, and made an appointment for me to go in later that day. So Curtis and I drove to Zoe, and we were scared. And I was really nervous. I knew that it was a Christian organization, and I didn't want to feel judged. I think that's something that a lot of teen moms struggle with, is feeling like there's a stigma and feeling judged and being really fearful of that. But that was the complete opposite of what I felt when I walked in there. I was in a room with a nurse and an advocate counselor, I think it was Lisa and Sarah, and they did a pregnancy test and confirmed that. I heard somebody else tell me, you were pregnant. And they explained to me what was going on in my body, helped me figure out when my due date was, how far along I was, and really just made me feel valuable as a person and capable, that it was okay to be nervous, but that I was capable of doing this. And meanwhile, when I was in that room, my boyfriend Curtis was in a room with Chris, who's the director of the Fatherhood Mentoring Program, and that was really great for him. Men and women take this news very differently, and so it was really good to have another guy to talk to him and process that with him. When we left Zoe, we had armfuls of packets telling us everything from where to get diapers to where to look for affordable housing and everything in between. We sat in the car after we got out of Zoe, and that was the first time that we actually felt like, maybe we can do this. Maybe I can have this baby. Maybe we could raise this baby. We ended up going back to Zoe a couple weeks later for an ultrasound to see the baby, and it was good for a couple reasons. It was the first time I saw Curtis become excited about this, and for me, it took on a whole new meaning. Instead of it just being about me and Curtis, it was me, Curtis, and this little dot on the screen that was our baby. Since then, Curtis and I have both signed up to be a part of the Mom to Mom program and the Fatherhood Initiative program, And that's just been such a blessing for us. My mentor, Lisa, has just been so great in helping me feel more prepared for having this baby and becoming a mother. And Curtis would have loved to have been here to talk and say some words about his mentor, Zach, but he told me that it has just helped him become so much more of a supporter and leader in this pregnancy and relationship. When we walked into Zoe, I had no idea what to expect, but I really was not expecting and was very surprised and thankful for the amount of support and help that Curtis and I have both received during this journey. ZoeCare is so much more than just a pregnancy center and an STD testing center. They're a team of people who do their best and work really hard to not only support and strengthen the lives of the mothers and fathers that walk in those doors, but give those young parents to be that I can do this feeling. And that feeling is a huge key step in individuals choosing life and choosing to bring that life into the world. Thanks.
Thank you, sweetheart. So the other day, Taylor invited the whole family to come over and see a ultrasound, and that was really cool. And we're looking at the ultrasound in there in the office, and you can see the little baby and see the arms and legs. It was so awesome. And Anthony says, "Dad, look, that baby already has more parts than you." Yeah. Wait till I'm a transformer. I'll get him. I'll get him back. I've spent some time with the staff of ZoeCare, and as I've prepared for this evening, and what I've heard over and over again is, we are in the building up and enriching lives business. Yes, they save babies, and obviously that's an important aspect of what they do. But that's only one aspect of a bigger goal, and that's to communicate to every person who walks through that door that they have inherent, God-given value, regardless of what the mother's decision may turn out to be. And didn't you hear that in Taylor's words and her tone of voice? Accepted, loved, cared for, cherished, mother and father, and the unborn baby too, all inherently valuable. Not a number, much more than a statistic. So now for some statistics. I've never been much of a statistics person. As my kids like to remind me, I don't numbers. But some of these numbers really do help to tell the story, to give some legs to the argument, so to speak. Thank you. The most recent data that we have is for 2014. 554,000 abortions nationwide, which was actually down from 2013. 21% of U.S. pregnancies, excluding miscarriages, end in abortion. U.S. abortion rates are higher than Canada and most Western European countries, but lower than China, Cuba, and the majority of Eastern European countries. Unmarried women account for 85% of abortions. And it's hard to measure, but fair to say that abortion crosses the mind of every woman experiencing an unplanned pregnancy. In essence, every woman is abortion vulnerable. Approximately 15 to 20% of women are abortion-minded. Abortion-minded are women characterized as those determined to have an abortion. So far, in 2016, January through August, ZoeCare has seen 44 women they would consider abortion-minded. Of those 44, 12 ended up having negative pregnancy tests, 7 chose life, and 2 aborted, and 19 are still unknown. But after looking at these numbers, I asked the staff, frankly, what kind of numbers did they look at when gauging their success? A single life saved is a success, was the reply. But more importantly, a relationship being formed, established, and sustained is our goal, they said. Our desire is to help our patients come to know Christ and know the abundant life found only in Him. Wow, so enough numbers for now. What does a visit to ZoeCare look like? Well, it's imagination time. Let's assume you are a young girl who just found out that you're pregnant. Yes, guys, you too. You're a girl, you're pregnant, and it's a total surprise. You're scared, possibly broke. Maybe you're a student at the college or even in the high school. You don't know how the father's going to react or what to expect of your own family either. What are you going to do? Where are you going to go? And if there is a place to get some help or answers, how are you going to find this place? Do you go to your regular doctor? What about insurance? I don't know, maybe going to the hospital or even your personal doctor is making a bigger deal out of it than it needs to be. And are they required to tell somebody? So much fear and confusion, which is the same stuff that Taylor had just expressed. Maybe there's a place where you could just go to find out some answers, find out what's going on, and get some breathing room to think clearly. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm in no way advocating not visiting a doctor or the hospital. I would never say that. I'm just trying to illustrate the possible thought process of a young lady who's been blindsided by life-altering news. Okay, so how do you hear about Zoe? Though ZoeCare advertises in various print mediums and even on local radio, the vast majority of clients hear by word of mouth from others who have experienced Zoe's care firsthand. Zoe is working hard to be the first choice with college and high school students, and that kind of presence and name recognition takes time, effort, and funds, but that's the goal. But you have a friend who's heard of ZoeCare, and they tell you about it, and you discover that Zoe is very close to the college, it's very convenient, and you walk through the door. If you are very fortunate, you'll be immediately greeted by Deanne's smiling face behind the reception counter. Okay, wait a minute, that sounds like you'd be unlucky to meet anybody else. That's not what I mean. There's plenty of smiling people in there. They're all over the place. At any rate, you're there, and you're scared. Plus, you've heard that this place is full of Christians, and that some of the sponsors are even churches. Uh-oh, here comes the shame. Here comes the judgmental looks and the feelings of guilt. Maybe you can just get what you need, a test or two perhaps, and get out of there before they start preaching at you. But that's not what happens. You're invited inside by people who understand what you're going through and accept you for who you are and the situation that you're in. Sure, this was unexpected and potentially traumatic, but it's not about guilt and shame. It's about love, acceptance, being inherently valued, not being alone, and hope. And that's what you discover as you move inside and meet the staff. Several scenarios could branch off from here, but in this case, they perform a pregnancy test, which is free, as well as tests for STDs, sexually transmitted diseases, which are also free. Your first test comes back positive. You're pregnant. But what now? Oh, how do you tell your parents or your boyfriend? And the big question, are you even going to have the baby? If so, will you keep it or give it up for adoption? But you know what? ZoeCare is still there. They haven't left, and even though ZoeCare's initial touch may be over for now, you're still not alone because Zoe is going to continue to stand by you. A counselor comes beside you to help you with every aspect of what comes next, still for free. This isn't a commission sale, this is compassion. Of course, ZoeCare always chooses life, but that includes your life, not the baby's, not just the baby's. Regardless of your decision, Zoe is still there for you. But ZoeCare offered you an ultrasound as well, free of charge. And you know what? Back in 2014, at this banquet, I heard that 75% of the time, when a woman sees an ultrasound, she chooses life for her unborn child. 75%. That is an awesome number. But it gets better. The numbers today are actually higher. 83 to 87% of the women that see their ultrasound choose life. Incredible. How can we put a price on responses like that? Actually, I will tell you in just a little while. So you're looking at the ultrasound, and you see the little toes and fingers with fingerprints, and the baby is sucking his thumb. However, you still aren't sure. How are you going to do this alone? ZoeCare is awesome, but Zoe isn't going to be at your house changing diapers every day, and it's overwhelming. Plus, what's the father going to say? What if he doesn't want you to have the baby? What if he gets angry at you? Well, thankfully, in this case, you get to ask him because he just walked in. And a woman who is with her boyfriend, partner, or husband while viewing an ultrasound chooses life an astounding 93 to 97% of the time. Yay, ultrasounds. So it's at this point that Chris shows up to meet this young man. Chris, as we've heard, heads up the fatherhood mentoring program, and he will get to know this nervous and frankly most likely clueless father-to-be and match him up with an older, experienced Christian man who can help lead him through the three primary areas of pregnancy, fatherhood, and relationship. The mentoring program has turned out to be an extremely powerful part of what ZoeCare does, as we heard about a little earlier. And I know from experience that these efforts are working and lives are being changed. There are right now 9 mentees in the program, ranging in age from 21 to 32, with a few more in the wings who may be joining soon. Currently, there are 17 mentors representing 8 different churches in the area. But ZoeCare would love to increase that to 24 mentors by the end of 2016. And I want to add that I was amazed to hear to what lengths the folks at ZoeCare will go to knock down the practical barriers that keep women and couples from feeling that choosing life is even an option. ZoeCare is in ongoing contact with multiple employment agencies and other service groups to help folks find jobs, improve their education, or even find places to live. That's awesome. So what about young ladies? Well, as Janine mentioned earlier, with the Mom-to-Mom mentoring program, they are mentored, supported, and loved as well. As Janine told us earlier, the reality for many young moms is that they are at risk for underachievement in education, poor prenatal care, mental health risks, social stigma, and a continued cycle of poverty and disadvantage. The Mom-to-Mom mentoring program was developed with the goal of overcoming these risks and turning the pregnancy into a blessing. Turning the pregnancy into a blessing. I love that. Currently, 9 women are being mentored. Of the women who are being, and Mom-to-Mom's first 2 mentees have given birth recently. And of the women who are being mentored, most are about 18 to 22 years old, although it's open to women of all ages. In the past month, 5 more pregnancy patients have signed up to be mentored. And I would just like to say, if there is a tug on your heart tonight to join this deeply valued group of mentors, there is a sign-up table in the back, and please don't forget to stop by and talk with them. So needless to say, ZoeCare has a lot going on, saving babies, changing lives, giving hope, and modeling Christ. It makes me think of the verse from the Psalms that we've used as our theme verse for tonight. It's Psalm 16:11. You will show me the path of life. In your presence is fullness of joy. At your right hand are pleasures forevermore. And I think that sums up what ZoeCare is all about, showing the path of life, because in his presence is fullness of joy. And it's all offered free of charge, every bit of it. But what is it costing ZoeCare? These services and staff are not free. Let's look at a couple numbers. Average cost for an obstetric ultrasound is $338. STI testing for chlamydia and gonorrhea, the 2 most common STIs, is approximately $180. With lab, it can be as much as $370, depending on the lab services. ZoeCare's extended STI services are valued at $185 to $600 per patient. And of course, that's beyond what it costs just to keep the lights on. In fact, I don't know if you realize, but ZoeCare is only able to be open a few days a week simply because they can't afford to be open more than that. I hate the idea of a young lady, you, for example, desperate for help, and the doors are locked and the lights are off. Plus, there are other practical concerns. For example, they could really use a new ultrasound machine. Theirs is a dinosaur at 9 years old. A new machine would interface with their electronic health record system, which would obviously make their worlds a lot easier. And they have big plans for the future. ZoeCare would like to expand the mentoring programs for fathers and mothers to be, extending those relationships beyond the birth of the child, as well as hopefully connecting these young families to a church family. Also, ZoeCare is desperate for committed prayer partners, committed volunteers, committed financial partners, and committed monthly financial partners. Okay, so you're no longer pregnant young ladies, you're you again. But that doesn't mean that you and ZoeCare don't have a future together. Each one of us is faced with an amazing opportunity to come alongside ZoeCare in this incredible mission they've been tasked with. We have an opportunity to change the culture we live in by influencing our community, an opportunity to come alongside and bring truth to a generation that's lost hope, to a generation that doesn't even know what truth is anymore and is searching for an answer. I heard this said of ZoeCare recently: churches address the soul, clinics address the body, ZoeCare addresses all of it. And that's a rare thing. ZoeCare says, we desire more for your body, but we desire even more for your heart. So ZoeCare is on the front lines. What can we do to help? How can we, just regular mortal people, get in on this eternal mission? Well, as I said a moment ago, ZoeCare is desperate for committed prayer partners, prayer warriors that will bring the staff, patients, and unborn children to the throne of God on a regular basis. That is, of course, critical, and we can all do that. But if you decide to take that as a formal commitment, let Jean or one of the staff know. There's nothing like knowing that you aren't in it alone and have the prayer support of fellow believers who believe in you and what God is doing through you. ZoeCare needs committed volunteers, people willing to give their time and talents to a bigger cause. God has given each of us something that others need, even if it's something as simple and as powerful as friendship. Will you consider being a mentor? For just a few hours a month, you can have a life-changing impact and possibly eternal impact on someone who really needs to hear your perspective, experience, and insight. And as a mentor, you're not alone either. Chris and Janine train you in how best to mentor. They don't just lock you two in a room and tell you to inspire each other. Think about it and let God speak to your heart. Maybe this is an area that he's calling you to. Of course, ZoeCare is in desperate need of committed financial partners. People who want to put their money where their mouth is and support ZoeCare in a very tangible way. Come on, that's why we're all here. To learn about and be inspired by the remarkable things that ZoeCare does, but then give it what it needs to thrive so that they can give to others. Scared young mothers, desperate couples, unborn babies, what they need: truth, hope, and abundant life. And I want to emphasize this. Zoe needs committed monthly financial partners as well. Monthly giving is the lifeblood of an organization such as this. A $100 one-time gift is, of course, greatly appreciated. But $20 a month more than doubles your giving to Zoe. Only $20 a month. That's less than one dinner at Johnny Carino's. Plus, consider converting your one-time gift to a monthly one instead. Our goal is to raise $150,000 tonight. Bozeman is a very generous community, and if we all stretch a bit, I think that we can reach that goal. Plus, Jean joked with me that the Humane Society regularly raises over $100,000. I think we should be able to do that, at least. Besides, think of all those extra puppies and kittens that will need strong, solid families to go to. But seriously, $20 a month, $40 a month. What can you do? I think we can reach that goal tonight and beyond. So, there are white envelopes at each table. If the hosts would please get those out, if you haven't already done so, and pass out what's inside. I'm going to call the musicians to come back up and play a little mood music for us as you get a chance to look at what your table host has handed you. And I would like to encourage you, as you prepare to write down a number, to think big picture and prayerfully consider not the number you want to put on that check, but what number you need to put on the check. Many of us came with a number in our heads, and I encourage you to consider giving more, maybe even by adding a zero. Ultrasounds cost $338, but every ultrasound could easily be another life saved, another couple encouraged. Can you do that? Maybe the number you came in with was $200 or $250. Can you push it to $350 and save another life, or $700 and possibly save two? STD tests cost up to $370. Can you do that? Each person that comes through for testing hears truth and hears hope. Another touch drawing them to abundant life. Is that worth $400 to you? Or maybe even $4,000? As I said earlier, I've clearly felt the Holy Spirit tugging on my heart to do or respond to something in a particular way. I felt it without a doubt when we were called to adopt these awesome kids, for example. And frankly, I felt it again when Jean asked me to speak here tonight. I know for a fact that there are a few of you, hopefully many of you, that are feeling the Holy Spirit tugging on your heart big time right now. Like I said, I don't say that lightly. I say it from experience because I've sat in those very chairs in past banquets and added a zero that I didn't even know that we had. I encourage you to listen to that tug tonight like I did years ago when adopting my kids and give his number. The life you save may end up someday adopting Ted kids and making future family movies for their kids and their kids to enjoy. And you know what? It just might be that one of the lives that changes is your own. While you do that, we also have a sign-up table for volunteers for both mentoring programs as well as the patient advocates. We really could use more patient advocates. So please, please, please think about joining the mentoring teams or becoming a patient advocate. And if you have any questions, please check the back table or ask a ZoeCare staff member. So as the musicians play, I'll give you folks some time to look at your paperwork there. Well, it was a sincere honor to be with you tonight. Thank you very much. God bless you, and God bless ZoeCare and the lives that it touches. I would like to invite Pastor Sam Knight to come up now for the benediction. Thank you.